As a parent, there is no greater panic than the feeling of losing your child. You're rendered helpless, clutching onto hope that authorities will somehow locate and reunite you with your loved one. When political turmoil is thrown into the mix, the situation escalates into a genuine catastrophe. Now picture the sheer panic when 4-year-old Ivan Mishukov left his parental home and fled outside of Moscow. Yet, fate had other plans for him. In a turn of events that continues to perplex historians and sociologists alike, young Ivan found himself a new family, and remarkably, he was the one who made the choice. Born in Rudov, Russia in 1992, Ivan Mishukov's family appeared normal on the surface, but turmoil simmered beneath. His father's struggles with alcoholism left Ivan alone for days during his drinking episodes. Consequently, even as a toddler, Ivan had to fend for himself. But his challenges didn't end there. His mother, being young and ill-equipped to care for a small child, was unable to provide much assistance. Financial woes added to their difficulties. These tensions escalated until they reached a breaking point just before Ivan's 4th birthday. At the age of 4, Ivan realized he needed a change. Familiar with looking after himself, he believed that life couldn't possibly be harder outside his home. With the discernment of a 4-year-old, he made a difficult choice. Motivated by desperation, Ivan fled from home, determined to fend for himself. However, when he left his family behind, he confronted the harsh realities of the world he entered. Russian winters, capable of halting armies, exposed Ivan, a child without proper winter attire, to sub-zero temperatures, a perilous situation. In addition to battling the weather, Ivan faced hunger. The aftermath of the Soviet Union's collapse threw Russian society into chaos. Even when food was accessible, citizens queued for meager rations. Yet, each morning, Ivan sought breakfast at a bakery. The bakery staff, empathetic to his plight, shared pieces of stale bread. One day, however, another creature was seeking sustenance. A pack of feral dogs arrived at the bakery. Despite their potential hostility, Ivan displayed an altruism that many hungry adults might not consider. He shared his bread with the dogs, who gratefully accepted. This simple act forged a unique bond. Day after day, the ritual repeated. Ivan and the dogs shared meager portions at the bakery. Over time, the dogs, Jesse, Goga, Masha, and Seva, grew familiar with him. He became part of their pack, the shared sustenance strengthening their connection. Their bond extended beyond food. The dogs provided protection and warmth during the frigid Russian nights. Even at his young age, Ivan understood their importance. "I understand that if it wasn't for those dogs, I wouldn't have survived," he later recalled. Back home, Ivan hadn't been forgotten. Moscow authorities aimed to rescue him, deeming it unacceptable for a child to live on the streets with feral dogs. However, bringing Ivan to safety proved more challenging than anticipated. Twice, the police attempted to separate Ivan from the pack, but the dogs fiercely defended him. The authorities devised a clever strategy for their third attempt. Using food to divert the pack's attention, they finally succeeded in taking Ivan to an orphanage. It was a bittersweet moment. While a positive outcome, Ivan had spent 2 years bonding with the pack. They were now separated, but this wasn't the end of their story. They would reunite. Orphanage staff were surprised to find Ivan in relatively good health. Despite fleas and lice, the pack had cared for him. Questions remained about reintegrating this feral child into society. During his street years, Ivan's mother passed away, leading him to a local children's center. The pack ensured his well-being outside its gates. Authorities found him a foster mother. Returning to human company, his language skills and social abilities gradually returned. This forgotten child still had a promising future. Ivan's reintegration succeeded. He resumed education, joined the Kronstadt Naval Cadet School, and paraded before Vladimir Putin upon graduation. He worked as a factory operator in Rudov, enjoying stability attributed to the dogs. However, a slight shift could have altered his fate. Amid the Soviet Union's secrets, one concealed element might have changed Ivan's journey in unexpected ways. Amid the secret police's relentless pursuit of dissidents and the presence of remote gulags in Siberia, the average Soviet citizen was often oblivious, either intentionally or due to deliberate suppression of information. The most significant secrets were carefully shielded from prying eyes. the primary method for safeguarding major government undertakings was the establishment of closed cities. These areas fell under the strict control of the Soviet government, allowing only authorized individuals to enter through tightly controlled checkpoints. Most closed cities were absent from official maps, shrouded in secrecy from the public eye. One such city was City 40, now known as Ozyorsk. Located near a southern lake of Yekaterinburg, it bore no resemblance to a peaceful haven. Authorities had to employ persuasion to encourage residents to settle there, despite the unattractive prospect of living in a secret city. The Soviet Union's ingenuity was put to work in coaxing citizens to embrace a life of security checkpoints and isolation. Their enticement? City 40's residents enjoyed perks such as apartments, healthcare, and privileges that were beyond the reach of the wider populace. Stores consistently boasted well-stocked shelves. However, these privileges came at a cost. Residents of the closed city were engaged in some of the most hazardous tasks conceivable, operating one of the world's earliest plutonium processing plants. During the height of the Cold War, as tensions soared and the Soviet Union raced to keep pace with the United States, falling behind in the arms race could spell disaster for the nation. Politicians recognized the imperative of decisive action. As a result, the citizens of City 40 became the driving force behind the war effort, involved in plutonium processing crucial for nuclear weaponry. Nevertheless, while this role was far from ideal, a darker reality was unfolding behind the scenes. Upon the completion of plutonium processing, the plant was left with radioactive waste, a grave safety hazard. Unfortunately, authorities mishandled the disposal of this waste, resorting to reckless dumping into the environment. Exposure to radiation could trigger a range of effects, from immediate radiation sickness to lingering cancers. How could the Soviet Union perpetrate such a heinous act against its own population? Situated within a closed city, authorities operated with relative impunity. The outside world remained ignorant of the city's existence, hidden deep within the forest, let alone the contamination it harbored. Over the plant's operation, the volume of released contamination is estimated to surpass that of Chernobyl by 2 to 3 times. One area bore the brunt of this pollution. City 40 stood alongside the Teka River, which absorbed a substantial portion of the discarded waste. The river and its vicinity remain radioactive to this day, serving as a conduit for the pollution to spread to other regions. The Teka River flows into Lake Karachi, once an inviting spot for a leisurely swim. Today, the thought of touching that radioactive water is unthinkable. Nowadays, what once appeared to be an ordinary lake is recognized as one of the world's most contaminated sites. Termed the Lake of Death, this body of water reportedly carried twice the radiation of Chernobyl's epicenter. The hazardous contamination compelled the Russian government to take action. Concrete blocks were used to fill the lake, subsequently covered with layers of rocks and soil, transforming it into a permanent waste storage facility. Despite the grave risks, some individuals continue to consider Ozyorsk their home. The passage of time and the looming health hazards struggle to outweigh the emotional attachment that keeps them tied to the former City 40. Technically, Ozyorsk remains a closed city, causing residents to pause before departing. Departing would mean leaving the government's provisions behind and forever forfeiting the possibility of returning. Ultimately, this underscores a fundamental truth. Even within a contaminated city that remained off the world's maps for decades, the sentiment that there's no place like home endures.